ladies and gentlemen, now hosting the RizzoCast, put your hands together for Steven Risotto!
What's going on, everybody, and welcome. My name is Steven Risotto. I used to cover the San Francisco Giants for SF Bay, and I'm currently a producer at 95.7 The Game. I'm also the host of RizzoCast, a podcast that features current and former big league players, coaches, fans, media, and others who are regarded as some of the brightest minds around the game of baseball. Today's guest is Matt Wisler, a former right-handed reliever who pitched in parts of 8 seasons at the major league level with the Braves, Reds, Padres, Mariners, Twins, Giants, and Rays. He last pitched in 2022 and has very much began his post-MLB life in the business world. Wisler is now the co-founder of Elite Performance Medical, a company helping bridge the gap between professional athletes transitioning to medical device sales. If you don't know what medical device sales is, like me, I didn't know either before recording this, he'll tell you all about it. We discuss his postseason baseball rooting interest, new endeavor in business, discovering the mental device industry, assisting former athletes, the development of a slider, so much more. This is episode number 182, and let's get started. All right, and we are back with Matt Wisler. Matt is nice enough to take some time out of his busy day and join the show. Matt, what's going on? How you doing? Welcome.
I'm doing well. Appreciate you having me on, man.
Absolutely, and there's a lot to get to, and I kind of mentioned in the intro, that you obviously had played in the big leagues before, and now you're fully transitioned into a post-baseball life, which I find very fascinating. And anytime I have former players on the show, I always ask them what they're doing now, and I think it's important to catch up with players. Before we get into that, do you still follow baseball? Like maybe not the day-to-day stuff, but are you still locked in on what's going on around the game?
Uh, Honestly, not too much. I think I started watching a little bit more this year. I didn't really watch any last year. I think it just it helped me kind of separate away from it. To be honest, like I would watch games and just get frustrated watching, knowing that I felt like I could still play. And this year it's gotten a little better, and obviously I still have a lot of friends in the game, so. I watch a lot of my former teammates and try to if I watch a good game like that, it's typically because I know somebody playing. But honestly, yeah, I found myself this year watching, so I'm sure over the next couple of years, and obviously with my son being born, I'm sure over the next 5, 10 years, I'll continue to watch and try to stay up as much as possible with it.
Yeah, you mentioned you had some friends in the game. Who in particular are you kind of locked in on?
A lot of old Rays guys. Obviously, like I play with Free, but we hadn't played together in almost 10 years now. And then obviously, I got Colby Allard was my throwing partner for the last couple of years out in California, and he had a really good year this year with the Guardians. So, guys that I have kind of worked out with, trained with for a long time, and the ones that. But honestly, like if I have any old teammate I watch, whether I was super close with them or we spent a couple of years together, a couple months, so it's just always nice to see familiar faces.
This is another thing I asked. Do you at all get like the itch? Maybe not this time of year, but I've heard from players in spring training and the beginning of February that it's starting to be time where camp would usually happen, but it's not happening, and I'm at home. Like, has that happened to you since where you've like gotten the itch to play again?
Yeah, so I ended up joining like a softball league, and that kind of actually I never thought I'd be that guy, and I've actually really enjoyed just the part of it again, like just the team camaraderie and stuff. Honestly, it's the stupidest thing, but the one time I really did it, a long time ago before I had kids, I basically made a glove for when I did have a kid and it had like little Whistler on it, and when we were putting the nursery together before he was here. I grabbed it and was playing with it and was just like messing around in the mirror like I used to do. And that was really the only time that I've been like, dang, I actually do really miss playing and throwing and like doing this stuff. I mean, that's why I tell a lot of the athletes that I taught you now, it's like it never really goes away. There's always that, want to play. But for me, I think, I need to do a better job of this as kind of my career stabilizes, my family life stabilizes, like getting involved into like softball and a basketball league because I don't want to lose that athleticism and just like the joy of playing. And I think with having a son now, like I'll be able to bring that back into my life, which I'm excited about.
Yeah, no, for sure. How has that been having a kid? I know
It's been good. It's
you
been a
mentioned that.
life change.
Yeah, you mentioned that
I
you got some
can't.
sleep last night.
Yeah, yeah. Last night was the best night. I honestly, what I can't imagine is having to do this in season. Like I had a lot of guys. I made a conscious choice when I was very young, to not really want to until the tail end of my career, or if I was out of the game. Again, you're way too much for me, but like I can't imagine what guys and their wives go through, like having kids in season and like newborns, because the sleep and the timing and all that stuff would be really hard to to maneuver with baseball in this.
Yeah, you just answered what I was gonna ask you next is do you think you could have done it during your career?
Yeah, I mean everybody's goal is to have them in like in the first week of the off season, but obviously it's a lot easier said than done. So those that do it and their kids are like 6 months and probably getting almost through the night by the time the regular season happens, but it's also hard, man, because like you got to think about it. If you're having a baby in season, you get 3 days paternity, and you run the risk of I've known guys that missed births because they were in on the West Coast and the baby's on the East Coast, so it's just hard. And like even I mean I obviously doing my own thing now, like I because it's basically a two-man show right now, like it's not like I had any time off. I'm a 1099 technically, like whatever, if we don't work then we don't make money, both my wife and I, so it's like you don't get the 3 or 4 months paternity leave because everything I do is through our own company, so like we both went back to work quicker. We have the reason we moved to California was for family, and her mom or sister, our nanny has been phenomenal so far for us to allow us to do this.
That's awesome. Good that there's help there. Yeah, let's talk about the business life now. You were the co-founder of Elite Performance Medical. Just for those out there, kind of give us the basics on what you're doing now and what that is.
Yeah, so basically, what we do in a nutshell is we help former athletes, whether they're professional or college. It's a really hard transition mentally, but also like not knowing what's next. Knowing what's next, like if you want to get into medical device sales, it's hard to get into if you don't have the experience, right? So the problem with being an athlete and what I talk to a lot of athletes about this. It's like, look, everybody tells you they want former athletes, and that's a great thing, and they have the internal qualities. But then athletes get into the real life and the real job interview, and everything they're told is they lack the real true experience, right? They weren't able to do internships, they weren't able to do job shadowing because they had their sports, right? Like you just don't have time to do that stuff as a college athlete. And so, actually, unless you've made like true connections in the industry, you're really behind the eight ball. And so, like, that's kind of where you maybe want to get into it, but you lack that experience, and you don't want to go to ADP or Cintas or Enterprise for a couple of years to get the experience. You want to try to get into it, but it can take a long time, and it's very frustrating and exhausting to continue to not get anywhere and feel like you're getting any traction. So what we do is we have an educational platform. It's all online, it's all virtual, and it's developed. So I got into it. I thought about med sales myself when I got out of the game. And I have a friend of mine from home. We grew up in Northwest Ohio together. His name's Telly Fricky. He's been an independent distributor in this industry for about a decade now, learned a lot, jumped in it by himself, which after learning this industry was pretty stupid on his part. But he honestly just grinded his way to success. And through that trial and error for him, he learned a lot. And we bring in guest speakers. We have surgeons that are a part of our platform. And right now, we've got about 200 hours in climbing every week of our calls that we do, that we take these athletes, educate them, and then we facilitate placement with them once they've graduated, and provide them opportunities to get into the industry now equipped with the knowledge of the industry, the education on it, and kind of like they're able to land jobs successfully in the industry because they can go up against people that do have experience in the industry because of the platform, the education they're receiving through EPM.
That's awesome. And I guess for just on the surface, what would you consider like what's an example for those wondering and also for me wondering? I was going down the website and I guess kind of wondering what a medical device was. So what would you constitute as a medical device and like an example of it, I
Yeah.
guess?
So honestly, like again, everything I've learned is through my partner in this, and he's spent his time on the orthopedic side. So he deals in foot and ankle surgeries and hand upper extremity surgery. So anytime that an athlete, like if like all those guys that are sponsored by an Arthrex or a Stryker or Zimmer Biomet, like anytime that you go into surgery, you get a plate or a screw, or you get the Arthrex soft tissue, the suture anchors, like labrum surgery, whether it's hip or shoulder, you get in a car wreck, you break your wrist, and you get a plate and screw. All of that is a med device. and that is the surgical side of like the hardware orthopedic side of things. So pretty much all orthopedic surgeries have a rep in the room, which is honestly a lot crazier than you would think. And there's a lot more dynamics between the surgeon and rep. Obviously, the surgeon is doing everything, but that rep has to be a specialist when it comes to his device, which means that he has to be clinical enough to walk that surgeon how to go through surgery using his specific device and understanding, basically how the surgery works from his standpoint and walking them through it. And a lot of people don't realize that side of things, that you're actually in the OR, and there's a lot on the line every time you're in there, right? There's a real patient on the table, and so that is something that should not be taken lightly, should be very serious because it has real life implications for the patient. Like imagine being an athlete and like turf toe, right? With Joe Burrow, if he's got a surgery in there and he needs a device, there's a rep in the room for that, and so like people don't really realize that. And then also that's one sector that most people realize, but from what I've gathered, there's about 50 different sectors. I mean, you've got women's health, you've got like the capital sales, which is like your monitors, your beds in the hospital, you've got recovery sciences. So all the things that athletes use in the training rooms, from shock waves to lasers to, H waves, all of that type of stuff is being sold, urology. So pretty much everything in the healthcare system has a salesperson behind it, and it's a vast one. There's a lot of opportunity, but it's finding the right ones, knowing the right fits. And there's the big companies everybody knows about, but there's also the small companies nobody knows about, and it's getting access into both those realms to find the best cultural fit too for these athletes, so they're not going to some place where they stay for a year or two. Like our big goal with an EPM is to help establish careers. It's not really about getting in the industry for us. It's really about setting these athletes up for success long term in this industry to find careers in this industry and not like a 1 or 2 years like a lot of people do.
Yeah, that's awesome. And one of the things that I was wondering is like, I wonder if these athletes, and you could probably speak on this, if they have personal experiences like during their career. I'm sure that they find a way to get fascinated with the medical side, maybe when they're injured themselves or they've gone through different therapies and surgeries and whatnot. Is that something that you've noticed on your end? Players that are just fascinated by the process and they want to make it into a post-playing career kind of life?
Yeah, I would say a lot of the athletes, what ends up happening is they get an ACL surgery or they get a labrum surgery or they break their arm and they go through surgery or they go through uh, something, or they know somebody that did and they realize what this industry is, and they go through it and they interact with the surgeons and they're like, wow, you can actually really help somebody in this process, and you can also, again, financially rewarding. So it kind of scratches the itch that most athletes want, right? Which is something that's competitive. They're not going to be sitting behind a desk every day just punching in numbers, doing cold calls. And you talk about the adrenaline that you like. You're never going to recreate the adrenaline you get running out in a big program college football. I'm never going to recreate sitting in a bullpen, in Fenway Park waiting for that phone to ring with my name called, right? I can't replicate that, but when you go into surgery, that's why a lot of athletes like the OR side of things, because when you go into surgery, that's basically going between the white lines, right? There's real consequences. You should be nervous before every case, because anything can go wrong during these cases, right? You could be in a foot and ankle procedure, but if a blood clot happens in the foot or they hit an artery, like that has, somebody could die from that. So you've got to be always on your toes. And it's just kind of that game time feel of getting into the OR. And I think that's what really draws a lot of athletes in.
Did that draw you in? Did you have any personal experience before this?
Thank God, no. Like the only injuries I had were pretty stupid. I had a neck injury. I had some. I think it basically what my end up my chiropractor was telling me was I just kind of compressed my neck over the years between workouts and plane rides and sleeping on buses and throwing. So like my neck almost like lost some of its length, and so it was like compressing. And basically, I got 4 cortisone shots just to try to get through the season. Ended up just restretching it out. I've never had any more neck pain, and then I had a finger injury, but I've never had, knock on wood, never had surgery, never had anything like that to draw me in. But I had friends in it just like everybody else. And so that's how this all came about, as an initial conversation I had with Telly, asking him like, the same questions that we teach in the course are the same questions that I had getting out of the game, right? Because I mean I created a LinkedIn 2 weeks before I retired, and it was basically like what is med sales, and that's kind of where the he had the idea of this beforehand, and then when I came into the equation, it was kind of perfect timing on like, who better to tell a transitioning athlete story than the transitioning athlete. So it was kind of a perfect timing for us to put this together.
Yeah, and for someone starting off in this, and let's say there's a preliminary meeting with you, for example, what would be the process for an athlete to get into this?
To get into EPM specifically, you're saying?
Yeah, EPM specifically.
Yep. So we're very select, right? Because this industry, it's very demanding, and it's a lifestyle much more. And like you have to be fully committed to it, right? Like you get into college sports, everybody thinks that it's super glorious, but what you come to realize once you're in it is like it's a lot of time, it's a lot of sacrifice. Again, you're not able to live the normal college life because you've got two full-time jobs that are going on between school and that. And so once people realize like the first call that we do is an introduction call, right? It's basically, look, what is your situation? What are you looking for? Is this, you have three different candidates. You're going to have those that are kind of exploring the industry that are like, is this something I want to do? I've heard of it, but what is it? That so we basically just give them the education of like, look, this is what your lifestyle looks like. This is what a day to day is. This is the financial, but this is also the bad parts of it. So, is this something you want to do? Then we move to another call, which is basically just getting into EPM, and then they have to make a final decision, right? And basically we have a fee obviously for the course, but that fee, a lot of it for us is because again the resources, the education. I mean, we're putting in. We've Telly and I have both put in almost 2 years now of working in this course, and it's continual education, and we have constant conversations. So it's that aspect to it, but it's also if you don't have skin in the game, then you're less likely to see things through. And we care about long-term careers, not about getting people jobs. So you've got to commit to yourself as well. And that's kind of our way of seeing that commitment from our athletes.
Yeah, and it's much different than the route that a lot of former players take, where they go down the real estate route, they go down
Hmm.
a bunch of different routes. So it's kind of a breath of fresh air in that sense. And I read that you're the president of MLB operations, co-founder, and also the NBA chair. So maybe you're getting a chance to rub
To the goal,
elbows
yeah.
with
I
some
mean, the problem with the
ex-basketball
NBA
players.
is, yeah, we've looked in some professional leagues. We're going to have some cool because our other co-founders in the NFL or played in the NFL for about 8 seasons a while ago. But then we realized too, the NBA, it's like, well, they make too much money in today's day and age. So it's going to be, we'll probably tap a lot more into the college basketball players than we will in the NBA because, I mean, shoot, Kevin Durant just signed for 700 million. They said over the course of his career, and those bench players. It's hard to get to that league, but we'll G League players. But I mean, shoot, a lot of those NBA guys, that's real money they're making now.
Yeah, and we're in the Bay Area here. I mean, I work in sports talk radio. I mean, Jonathan Kuminga just signed a big contract and he's barely played. Nobody even knows
I
what
don't
he
even know who these
is.
guys. I don't know who these guys are, and they're making 15 mil a year. So like, if you can make it to the NBA and you last 3 years, like you're making pretty solid money. But we're here for those that don't, right? And also, like we understand, like I played 6 years in the MLB in total in service time and over 8 seasons, and I was not a superstar. I was a journeyman, and you have a good start in life, right? And there's a lot of guys that we deal with that might have that. But again, you still got to provide for your family for the next 60 years of your life. You can't just sit on 5 years of that unless you're a superstar, which if you're a superstar, then you go home and sit in your mansion, right? Like we don't have that luxury.
Yeah, and just I'll get back to everything. Just real quick, you mentioned something about how like baseball's a good start. Is that just like the dream thing to do in your 20s? Like does I mean it just seems like traveling the country, playing baseball, making the money. Like is that something that just can't be beat at least in your mind?
Yeah, I mean, obviously, again, like minor leagues, no, I would not say there's a
Yeah.
playing minor league baseball. No, I would say there. I mean, it's cool for a couple of years, but like when I got drafted, I got drafted out of high school, and I was giving myself till I was about 24 before I made a realistic decision. Right, I was very lucky that I ended up getting. I mean, and back then it was young, right? When I was 22, I got to the big leagues. And once you do that at that age, like you kind of get more chances because you had to be a prospect at that time to get in. And then basically like you can make a little bit of money in the minors. So it was going to be good for me no matter what. But you know, in today's day and age, minor league baseball is a lot easier than it was pre-COVID. With the travel, the pay, they got unionized, right? So they have a lot more benefits now. Um, Minor league, I'm going to say no, but big leagues, like yeah, it's amazing, right? You're traveling around, you're flying charter, you're staying in five-star hotels. The cities are good, the atmosphere is amazing. Like you're always playing. I don't know. It's a lot different. Like that was the one thing that was hard for me was doing that for like 8 seasons and being part of it, and then going back to AAA for a whole year. That was when I realized like this, I can't put my life doing this and my wife and wanting to start a family in AAA anymore. Like it's a good life. Don't get me wrong. Like it's still a lot of fun, But once you've experienced the big leagues, and everyone that's done that will tell you the same thing, that it's not the same when you go back down.
Yeah, it's crazy how like Rich Hill's done it all these years, and he was
Oh my
recently,
gosh.
yeah, he
I
was
can't. I
recently in
mean, dude,
AAA for the Royals.
yeah, that guy is still kicking. But he said it. I remember. I think he talked to me a long time about this. He basically at this day and age he doesn't go through spring training. Like he basically just works out and then somebody signs him and then he gets a chance. Which if you're gonna do it right, that's probably the best way to do it. Or if you can play, I play with a couple guys like Frank Core and Kelly Johnson, and they both did the same thing. They both finished their careers in Atlanta where they were at home. And we had conversations, and they both said, if I can't get re-signed by the Braves, like I'm done. Because like once you play at home and you're close to family, like it's not the same sacrifice as if you're gone all the time. Like you actually are a part of home. So for guys like that had, again, made a lot of money and had very successful careers, like they were like able to go out on their own terms because it's like, look, I played at home and I know now how great this is, and I'm not willing to like leave anymore.
Yeah, Rich Hill has like maybe two or three or four or five like May showcases, still left in
Yes.
him. Like it's
Yeah,
always the
it's
showcase in
crazy.
May, and he
I don't
signed a
know how
week
that guy,
later.
I don't know how he's doing it, man. Like I can't, his body has to hurt every day.
Yeah, no, maybe he could get in your industry. Right? That'd be a great addition, Rich Hill. Yeah.
I can't, that guy in the OR would probably be an absolute menace. It'd be fun to see him in there.
Yeah, I do hear he's kind of a freak of nature, but I guess when you have the career that he has had, everybody's a
Yep.
freak of nature when you have that background. All right, back to the business a little bit. You mentioned college athletes, and I think that's interesting. And you work a lot with college athletes. How many of the college athletes have been, I guess, because a lot of them are trying to figure out what to do, and I think in baseball,
Mhm.
especially, if you go down the college roster, you see a lot of them have the same majors, right, with
Yep.
finance and sociology, whatever it might be, like
Communications.
communications. Yeah, it's the same type of thing, and I don't know how much they take that seriously, but how much seriously have you seen college athletes take it when kind of you get to them?
Yeah, so I think that's where, because obviously, like the main thing is with college athletes, right? There's, 500,000 college athletes at a time. And so you're dealing with a couple 100,000, maybe 150,000 that are retired, that are graduating every year. Whereas professional sports, I don't know what the number would be, but it's a fraction of what that number is. So obviously, you got to tap into both. But I think with college, you see some that are like a lot of the conversations I have are people that aren't even, that are a year or two away from graduations, right? That's kind of where we're having these conversations and we're building that pipeline where it's like, look, right now is not the right time. Like I'm not going to have you sign up for a course until you're in your spring of your junior or you're in the last couple of months of before you graduate. So um some people come into college and know what they want to do. Again, some of these athletes that we're talking to, they're like, look, I've heard of med sales. I'm kind of exploring it, but like, I don't know really what it is. I just know people that are in it. And so again, this is where the first call that we have, it's basically, look, this is what the industry is and entails. And if they're more interested after that, then that's when we kind of get into our secondary calls of basically how we can bridge that gap for them and get them into this industry. But also, again, set yourself up long term for success. Um, and some athletes are better at it than others. Some are, exploring other industries. Like we don't sell people on the industry in itself. That's the one thing I tell everybody. Like, look, this is going to be your life and your lifestyle. Like I would never ask you to commit to this until you commit to the industry in itself. If you can't do that, then EPM is not going to be for you because you will get eat up and spit out in this industry. And we don't want to see that in terms of our brand because on the hiring side of things, right, the reason we have such high retention numbers is because of the fact that you've got to commit to the industry and yourself in terms of your development through us. Um, and so I think that's where, a lot of these athletes, they kind of have a good idea, but, I also talk to a lot that are really like, this is what I want to do. And they get in, they get going with us and they get jobs and they're finding success right away, which has been awesome to see.
That's great. And how does this? How are you and your partners like? Have you I guess figured out a great way to publicize this and to promote it? Like, what's your strategy in getting the word around? I know you have connections, your partners have connections,
Yep.
but how does the word get around on this type of thing?
Honestly, we built the entire company on LinkedIn. Like that is literally where we started from. That's pretty much I would say 90% of 90 to 95% of what we do is through LinkedIn. And it's a very powerful tool. Like we do a little bit of Instagram, but a lot of it is basically, and again too, like we're not looking to take in 500 athletes this year. Like we're trying to grow where we have opportunities for them on the backside of things. So as we continue to grow, I don't know where that number gets to, but Every year, I'm connecting with people weekly on LinkedIn, and basically my partner is too, and we post a lot. And then obviously with Instagram, like trying to get post placements on that, and social media has really been how we do it. And then now it's a lot of referral based, right? So a lot of these athletes that go through the program, they post about their own job placements. People hit them up, hey, how'd you get into it? What's Elite Performance Medical? Then they kind of get referred into us, and so we have a referral program for our athletes specifically for that, where it's like, look, the best salespeople in the world are the ones that are benefiting from the program and believe in it. And so that's why we have that in place for them. But it's really just social media and word of mouth. And eventually it'll probably go a little more mainstream, but it's already definitely growing. Like it's becoming more of a norm, I think, for people to realize what it is, which is pretty awesome to see from just two dudes that are really just putting time in behind the scenes.
No, that's really cool. And obviously congrats on all the success. That's really awesome. And is it any like are there any similarities between doing something like this and you're gonna laugh, running in from the bullpen? Like is there any
In med
similarities
sales
at
or
all?
like in running EPM? Like which avenue?
Like the is there any adrenaline in business that matches or maybe not matches that of coming in from the bullpen, but
What,
just
the adrenaline?
adrenaline and understanding that there's a job to do, that type of thing, the competitive nature. I don't know how competitive EPM might be or in your role there, but are there any similarities?
Yeah, a ton. Like that's why a lot of athletes get drawn to the industry in itself. It's very competitive because you've got all these reps. The same like with Tom. It's like, look, just because you get a job in this industry does not guarantee success. Just because you land a surgeon does not mean success because there's always somebody else trying to take your job the same way there is in sports. So if you get lazy, you miss a case, you screw up a case, right? That surgeon may drop you and you just lost a big revenue boost for yourself. So that industry does have its kind of competitive nature where reps are always trying to undercut one another, and you've got to outperform each other. And then you've got like President's Club, right? You've got upper echelon in your company that you want to achieve. When it comes to my role specifically within EPM, like it's for sure competitive because there's other platforms out there. It's getting athletes to truly buy into this, right? Because I know we're still a newer company, but it's like getting them to like realize like sales is all competition, and just kind of getting these athletes to really believe in this. And then obviously for me on the other side of things, once we get athletes placed, there's a giant jolt of, and every time an athlete calls me or texts me and says, hey, I got the offer, that's like the best feeling for me and Tally. It's like I love when athletes get into our course because I actually truly believe that it can help people and it's going to make them more successful in this industry long term. So I get excited when people join. But then when the athletes end up getting jobs and you can see the time and effort that they put into this and going through us and going from not being able to even get an interview to landing a job through us is about as great as it gets.
That's awesome. And before we wrap up, I do have a few baseball questions.
Yeah.
One of them, I mean, you played in Seattle. You just saw Seattle rocking during the postseason. I know it was a little bit different when you were there, but did you like see any traces of that possibly happening with that? I mean, that fan base really showed up this October. When you were there, I know it was a short stint. You weren't there a long time, but did you like see any traces of that kind of building there?
Yeah, you can see the talent that was developing. I would say the one game that you could see the fan base was the Felix Hernandez last start in the big leagues, that or with the Mariners. I guess I don't know if that was in the big leagues or not, but his last start with the Mariners was epic. Like they came out, they showed out for him. I can't imagine like when he was there the whole time with the whatever that left field thing is, where they all like cheered for him.
The King Zone or
Um,
something? Yeah.
yeah, that. But no, I mean it was a cool city. It's a great stadium, lively. It's just obviously when you start succeeding, but they've made a lot of really good moves. They brought back a lot of players. I mean, their pitching staff's legit. Like you can see Logan Gilbert, the Woo dude. I forget the other guys, but like they're a legit like staff, and their bullpen's really good. Like I mean, I watching those guys against the Tigers. Like you just see the stuff coming out now, and it's just like, my God, dude, like everybody has disgusting stuff, and those guys have really put it together. Um, and it was a hell of a series. So, Blue Jays, it'll be interesting to see. I don't want to, but I think the Dodgers are going to win, just because their rotation is just so good right now. I mean, they spent 200 million on it, and right now they're all in rhythm. So we'll see if that delay, that having that time off sometimes can be bad, but that Dodgers rotation, if they pitch the way they did last series, then there's no chance.
You don't want them to win?
I would rather see. I mean, it'd be cool to see the Blue Jays win. I mean,
Yeah.
again, it's just the. I mean, I don't mind either way, right? Because like for me as a player, like you want to see teams that spend a lot of money win because that promotes more spending. Um, so like, but and I got people I play with that are on the Dodgers, but I don't know. It'd be cool to see the Blue Jays. They haven't won in like 35 years or whatever it is, and or 25 years, and no, yeah, it's like
Yeah.
30 years, I guess, whatever
Yep.
it is. What was it, 93 is what I saw.
93.
So yeah, so I guess 1 year younger than I am. So, but yeah, so it'd be cool to see those guys win. Obviously, LA is going to have chances every year. I mean that team is stacked. So if the Dodgers are healthy, they're always going to be the favorites until those contracts run out.
Yeah, I do agree with that. Do you have a favorite city that you played in?
Um, it's hard. Like when I home base, I would say, San Diego was amazing. I love Tampa too. Like I had my probably my best success for 2 years consistently down in Tampa. The team was amazing. The guys on the team were great. The city was awesome. Obviously, playing in Florida is nice. Um, I don't know. Like there were more cities that I liked really all the cities. It's funny because I grew up in a small town in Ohio. I don't think I'd want to play in New York full time, like be the home team, but I always love playing in New York against the Yankees, against the Mets. Like there really is a different like energy in the air when you go to that city compared to most.
That's awesome. And San Francisco, any fun
Yeah, I
thoughts?
enjoyed San Fran. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, dude, that Oracle is an unbelievable ballpark. Like it's beautiful, like right off the bay. It's strange wearing a sweatshirt in June, but like, I mean, great fans, great atmosphere. I wish I could have pitched a little better to stay there because that was a really magical run they made that year. Um, but yeah, I enjoyed it for sure. And I wish, I mean, the problem is I played in there like the year post COVID, so it was like very shut down still. But like, they have the most Michelin star restaurants in America. So like the food scene up there, and my wife and I love Napa. So going up there on off days was awesome. So like, it's definitely a great area. The Golden Gate, like we toured a little bit, went over to Sausalito, amazing place over there. So we enjoyed the city. The problem was it was still like in shutdown mode. So it was kind of like when we played in Minnesota. I like Minnesota, but you didn't see the real Minnesota because it was shut down.
Yeah, no, and the last thing I have for you, because when you were acquired by the Giants, the big thing that everybody talked about was your slider, and you threw it like
Yep,
what, 80,
a lot.
85% of the time or something like that. I mean, how did you develop that pitch, and what gave you the confidence to throw it as much as you did?
Yeah, so I like my pitching coach when I always could spin the ball a little bit in high school. Like I had a pretty good feel for it, command of it. And then my first coach in pro ball, Willie Blair, taught me his slider grip because I needed to get more differential, like speed difference between my curveball and slider. There was like 1 or 2 miles an hour, and it was kind of the same pitch. So we worked on throwing a harder, tighter slider. And it took me a couple months, but once I kind of locked it in, I basically had it the rest of my career. And I would say that was the pitch that really gave me a chance in the big leagues, right? That was my out pitch at all times. It was my strikeout pitch. I don't know. I think it just kind of progressed. It got to the point where I think it really happened in uh, 2019 with San Diego. Like my mechanics, I came off right before the season that year with the Reds. I kind of like tweaked my oblique. And so then when I came back, I think I started like kind of pulling off a little bit from it. And so I was, pulling off, cutting fastball. So I didn't feel very comfortable throwing a fastball. And so I just started throwing a ton of sliders, and had a lot of success doing it. And to be honest, sliders was my best pitch. And I'm in the bullpen. I'm facing guys once. Why am I taking my chance to throw a fastball that was very hittable to not throw my slider? And um, I think over the last couple of years of my career, I got really good with commanding it, throwing it in any count. 3-1 bases loaded, I was able to throw it. So not a lot of guys can do that. You see it. It is kind of funny the slider usage now and the off speed usage now. I think people realize like, look, I can throw my best pitch more than any other pitch because it's unhittable for a reason, and I don't need to set it up because hitters are always hunting fastballs, so I can continue to throw this pitch.
Yeah, at any time too. There's no fastball counts anymore. They don't exist.
That's what I'm saying. So I think it kind of just proved the fact that like you could have success throwing one pitch, or like look at uh Tommy Canley with he threw
Yep.
44 straight changeups in the postseason. I was like, why is everybody making a big deal when I threw 90% sliders and he's throwing 100% changeups? What's the difference?
Yeah. Sergio Romo threw a lot of sliders
Yeah,
too.
exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, he had that sinker slider combo, and so like that was where it just kind of transpired how it was. And when you're having success with it, it's like, why am I going to stop trying to do what's working?
Yeah, for sure. Awesome, Matt. Well, I appreciate the time here. The company is called Elite Performance Medical. Go check it out. LinkedIn is where they're at. There's a website. Anything else you want to plug about yourself or EPM?
No, I mean for any former athletes that are looking for kind of that next career path that kind of excites them and gets them up during the day, like we're definitely here to help you guys. But again, we want to help those that want to help themselves, and I think that's where athletes need to make sure that the biggest thing I'll tell athletes when they retire is to don't jump into something right away, to explore, right? Explore the other industries, what is out there for them. You see a lot of athletes who just jump from company to company or sector to sector, industry to industry, but it's like take a month, take 2 months, research what you want to do fully, and then build within that sector, right? Whether it is real estate, whether it's financials, whether it's med sales, like whatever it is, like find a career path that you can find purpose and passion in, so that you're not the guy 10 years after you retire, you're still talking about your sport. Like find something that you wake up and you want to talk about to people. And within a very short period of time, I stopped even thinking about baseball. And I think that really helped me successfully transition. But at the same time, I'll tell people also, like athletes that still have that itch, sometimes you got to scratch that itch, right? If you can't transition fully until that itch is gone and you know that it's time for you. Like if you're playing for your identity, that's not the right time to play. But if you're playing because you still believe you can do it, then you got to keep playing, because 20 years later you can't regret leaving the game or leaving something on the table. What if, right? Then those are the people that just can't let it go, and it's hard to see. But again, if the identity, you got a second career, and it's finding the right career path that challenges you the same way.
No doubt. So no Matt Wisler showcase in May.
No, maybe in my softball league, you guys want to come see me try and hit a home run, which is not very good.
Yeah, we got to keep us updated on that journey of trying to hit a home run. That should be fun. Well, Matt, again, appreciate the time and thanks for coming on the show.
Yeah, appreciate you having me on.
And everybody could go, of course, and follow the podcast on Twitter and Instagram at RizzoCast, TikTok, all that fun stuff. And we will see you next time.